On July 20th, Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon, saw his net worth increase by $13 billion in one day. Remember how as a gullible child you were told that if you put your mind to it you could do anything and achieve the American dream? Well, that's just a lie the politicians and corporations tell you to hide the fact that the American economic system is stacked against the common man. In this series, we're going to expose the many flaws of the increasingly outdated economic structure known as capitalism. The primary difference between capitalism and socialism is that socialism runs on redistribution driven by production of goods and services, while capitalism is the other way around. Intrinsically, each system is geared toward different things. For socialists, the people's needs is top priority. Goods are produced in response to the demand, and production is labor-intensive. For capitalism, though, the money lies in taking away what people want so you can sell it back to them at higher prices. Fun! So how does manipulating resources generate capitalist wealth? For that, we have to understand the basic building block of the free market, trade. Let's say I have something you want and you have something I want, so we decide to make a swap. Through this trade, each of us switches something we value less for something we value more. Thus, the overall value of each item increases and wealth is created. The problem is, if you don't want what I offer, we can't make that trade, which is why we agree on a currency that we all value. Again, by making a purchase with money, the implication is I value what you're offering more than I value my money. The fact that each transaction always creates more value for both sides of an exchange has led to the conservative mutation,
the rich get richer, the poor also get richer.
And though it's true that each free market exchange does generate more value, we'll soon find that this idea is misleading. It's time to play Name That Fallacy. If you haven't noticed, money is essentially just a piece of paper, basically useless. What gives it value is its purchasing potential. You see, with your money, you can choose to buy a multitude of things like goods, services, and more. When stocks grow, for example, you're essentially growing your purchasing power without doing any actual work. But if you're stuck in poverty, your broke ass ain't buying anything but the bare essentials. By limiting buying options, you make money functionally useless. Our fallacy is the incomplete comparison.
Then what comparison would be better?
Well, since using money for basic needs is pointless, we might as well skip all that and pay laborers directly with food and shelter.
Wait a minute. Basic survival in exchange for labor reminds me of...
that's what I call slavery.
No. They work for each other in exchange for money, which they then...
Well, that just sounds like slavery with extra steps.
Oh, now you're starting to get it. Humans have kept each other as slaves forever. It's not like people in the 19th century suddenly developed a conscience or something. In reality, the North was undergoing the Industrial Revolution. Adam Smith noted in The Wealth of Nations that slavery required food and housing, which were more expensive than simply paying for labor. Only after it became unprofitable did people finally realize,
hey, maybe the slavery thing is kind of wrong.
In the South, though, there was still plenty of money to be made picking cotton. If you're starting to see the pattern here, capitalism only ever seems to improve low-class lives. More accurately, though, it just gradually loses its power to oppress and dehumanize.
So, at what point does money start to gain potential?
Well, we know for sure that it's not with the 40 million Americans officially living in poverty, which was already an underestimate before coronavirus struck. Those people aren't buying anything non-essential except booze.
Aha! Since the rich spend the least on vital needs, money is most valuable in their hands. The market corrects itself once more.
Fat chance. The problem is that the rich are so busy accruing wealth, they don't even know what to do with all that money. They often end up spending it on random crap they don't really need. The real drivers of the economy is the middle class who have money to spend but are still forced to use it wisely. Instead, the middle class in America is constantly shrinking.
So how can we grow the middle class?
Easy. You take money from the rich and give it to the poor.
But that's socialism.
Yup. See, capitalism's biggest weakness is that it views money as a fixed good which represents the same value for everybody. The same transaction always generates the same amount of GDP, a measure which attempts to approximate wealth generated. What a surprise that capitalism, a system built to generate profits, does just that. But in fact, not only does the value of goods change drastically based on circumstance, the worth of money differs from person to person as well. The trade of currency for basic needs fundamentally breaks capitalist theory when the foreign concept of human worth gets inserted into the equation. We'll discuss that in the next episode of this series, but for now, just look at the silver lining. Since slavery doesn't work anymore, you don't have to be afraid of getting whipped to death anymore. You're still overworked, get treated like shit, aren't valued as a person, have low social mobility, can't get a proper education, have no healthcare, are ruled by the rich and powerful, and are told you somehow benefit from all this. Add on to that the fact that you aren't even guaranteed food and shelter for all your work anymore, and you'll probably go deep in debt too. But at least, you nominally get to choose the corporation you get fucked over by, and you get to vote, so your voice will be heard but not listened to.
Hey, wait a minute. Doesn't jail provide free food and shelter?
Yay for economics. By now I've drifted so far away from actual philosophy, I wonder whether I should just be called beyond. In any case, it's not enough to just understand political philosophies if you can't back it up with something more substantial. I've tried to keep things at a theoretical level because once you start putting in numbers, everybody just cherry picks their data or shouts Venezuela at the top of their lungs. I'll probably address all that later, but in any case, next week's episode might not be the second part to this. Might do something else before that.
I'm and I approve this message.